Namaste. Welcome to our sacred celebration of spirit. Welcome to the Darshan Center for Spiritual Evolution, where our vision is attuned to a higher awareness of oneness. Rev Mary, do you want to welcome everybody?
I am so glad to have you guys here today. Hopefully you'll really enjoy this.
Rev Max, you want to say something to our viewers?
Absolutely. Assalamu alaikum. Thank you for joining us tonight. We hope you enjoy the show.
Hello, everybody. We're so happy that we can all be together tonight. Thanks for being here with us.
Sister Chris?
Hi, everybody. Virtual hugs. Can't wait to hug you in person. Very excited about this sacred celebration and Mary's message tonight.
Awesome. And just so you know, church is theater. So yes, on with the show. And the purpose is to inspire and motivate and bring us closer to a visit with the divine.
We welcome the angels. We welcome the archangels. Be with us tonight. We are so grateful for the presence of the archangels. We are grateful for the presence of Metatron. We are grateful for the presence of Archangel Michael, of Archangel Haniel, of Zadkiel. We are so grateful to have Gabriel. We are so grateful to have Archangel Ariel here. We are so grateful for all of our guardian angels. We are so grateful for all of the angels, all of these beings of light. We welcome you to be with us tonight, blessing the sacred celebration, and we are so joyful to have your presence. Welcome, welcome, angels.
And we welcome the ancestors, all of the generations that have gone before us as we stand on their shoulders, our predecessors. Welcome.
And we welcome the Ascended Masters, Master Jesus, Mother Mary, Kuan Yin, Buddha, Saint Germain, and all the others. Thank you for being here with us tonight.
We welcome the spirit guides of the clergy, the spirit guides of our spiritual community, and the spirit guides of those tuning in tonight. Thank you for being with us, for protecting us, guiding us, and teaching us from beyond the veil. Welcome. Thank you for being with us now and always.
And we welcome our animal totems, those beings who have been with us always, who chose us at birth, who follow us, whether they're four-legged or winged ones or creepy crawlies or finned ones. We acknowledge your presence and we welcome your medicine that you share with us.
Our call to worship reminds us why we are here tonight, to celebrate, explore, and develop an interfaith experience and join together in sacred celebration of spirit. We welcome you to the Darshan Center for Spiritual Evolution, where our vision is attuned to a higher awareness of oneness. This house of worship is an interfaith and an interfaith sacred space for all people to heal, grow, learn, and develop a spiritual consciousness that celebrates the manifestation of the divine in all things.
This spiritual community is one of interfaith exploration, embracing all faiths that are affirming and positive, adhering to the highest spiritual goal of be good and do good. The major tenet of this spiritual community is that there is one infinite, all-powerful, all-knowing, ever-present divine source that moves in and around all that is seen and unseen.
We affirm that this divine source is called by many names and is beyond name and form, and recognize that while there are many paths that lead to enlightenment, each person is on their personal journey toward the awareness and understanding of the divine.
We believe that we are spiritual beings having a human experience and that we are spiritually evolving in this lifetime. We declare that enlightenment is possible in the here and now, and that this enlightenment can offer us joy everlasting. We know that living in the present moment and recognizing the true I am, which is our divine nature, is where enlightenment lies.
And we hope that you experience darshan, which is a Sanskrit term for visit with the divine, as a result of this sacred celebration that was planned for you tonight. We are the guardians of the Darshan Center, and we are so pleased to have you here with us in Satsanga, which is good association, tonight. And now celebrate with us as Reverend Max sings us an amazing song.
Save me from this road I'm on. From this road I'm on. I'll not take the wheel. Oh, take it from me. Spirit, take the wheel.
Creator, Great Spirit, you who are as expansive as the cosmos and yet as personal as our heartbeat, take the wheel. Spirit, take the wheel. God, Creator, our GOD, Global Operations Director, take the wheel as we venture down our highway, as we venture down this journey, down this sacred path, with all of its curves and all of its detours and all of its obstacles and all of its challenges and all of its service areas. God, with all of your grace and all of your mercy, please take the wheel and remind us that you're driving, not us. Amen. Aho, Ashe, blessed be. So it is. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti.
Now I want to invite you to join me in a meditation and a guided visualization, and to find a comfortable spot, to get comfortable in your seat. Take a deep breath, few deep breaths in and out, and focus on the sound of the music and the sound of my voice, just for now. Breathing in, breathe into that still space deep inside of you. That space where you connect with your highest self. And take another deep, relaxing breath. And now, with the power of visualization and with the power of your imagination, you find yourself in an open area. And before you, you see 4 different vehicles. You see a van, a beautiful van. And next to it, you see a beautiful luxury sedan. Next to that is a wonderful truck. Beautiful brand new truck. And next to that is a sports coupe. Beautiful. They're all beautiful, new and inviting. Look at each one. The van, luxury sedan, the truck, and the sports car. You may choose whichever one you like and get in it. Get in the vehicle and begin to drive. You are driving in your new beautiful vehicle, and you are surrounded by beautiful scenery. The day is perfect. Now note the direction you are heading. Are you heading east, south, west, or north? What do you see as you drive in this direction? Do you hear any sounds? As you drive taking in the sights, the beautiful scenery. You realize that you've been so focused on driving this amazing vehicle that you do not know where you are. But you are not afraid. And out of nowhere now, you notice a sign pointing to a side road. The side road has your name on it. You take the side road now, and there is a clearing. You stop the car now, and a being of light materializes next to you. A beautiful being of light appears to you, and you recognize them. You feel safe. You feel blessed. You realize you are not lost, and you are not alone. You are with this beautiful being of light that you recognize. Take a moment here and spend some time with this being. They have a message for you. Listen. You can ask this being for clarification of anything about the message you do not understand. This being tells you it's time for you to return, and you thank them. You thank them for the message and the information that they've given you. And they remind you that you can connect with them at any time you wish, simply by going in and remembering this journey. And so now I invite you to take another deep breath and to return to the present moment and sacred celebration of spirit.
Who's gonna tell you when it's too late? Who's gonna tell you things aren't so great? You can't go on thinking nothing's wrong. Tell me, who's gonna drive you home tonight? Who's gonna pick you up when you fall? And who's gonna hang it up when you call? And who's gonna pay attention to your dreams? And who's gonna plug your ears when you scream? You can't go on thinking nothing's wrong. So tell me, who's gonna drive you home tonight? You can't go on thinking nothing's wrong. Tell me, so who's gonna drive you home tonight? And who's gonna hold you down when you shake? And who's gonna come around when you break? You can't go on thinking nothing's wrong. Tell me, who's gonna drive you home tonight?
Wow, that was beautiful, huh? That's a song that brings me way, way back to my childhood. So obviously we're going to talk about driving tonight. Driving has always been a big part of my life. I could not wait to get my driver's license. And then I drove all over the place for a really long time. And recently I've gotten to the point where I don't want to drive. And if somebody else is willing to drive, I am more than glad to let them drive. Tomorrow, I have to go back to campus. It's the first time I will be working someplace other than my home since the end of March. Now, that doesn't sound like a big deal because, you know, I've been teaching for a long time, but it really is a big deal. And the reason it's a big deal is I've never been to this particular campus. I'm going to be teaching 2 classes at St. Thomas U. I haven't been at this campus really since 1983 because that's where I graduated. That was where I got my master's program. So I'm going back to a place that I haven't been to for a really long time, and a lot has changed. So much has changed. When I went there, I was lucky that I had a manual typewriter that my mother let me use. Now there's all kinds of technology. And one of the challenges I'm going to have to do tomorrow is I'm going to have to do half my class in person and half online. So I'll have students that are online on Zoom with me at the same time I have students in the classroom. And this is a class that really needs to be taught in person, in my opinion. So I know that going down to this campus, which is in Miami, is going to be a challenge for me. You know, I used to love to travel. I used to drive everywhere. I would drive, you know, to college in Vermont when I lived in Connecticut, and I would drive home on weekends. It was a 5-hour drive, 5.5-hour drive, and it was nothing to me to take that drive. I loved that drive. And I drove through ice and rain and storms. Here in Florida, I've driven through hurricanes, during hurricanes, immediately after hurricanes. Sometimes it was because my job required it. And sometimes it was just because I needed to get out of the house. With this COVID-19 going on, there was a while there that I would find someplace to go every day, even if it was just to Publix or, to get gas I really didn't need because I drive a hybrid. And so it keeps gas for a really, really long time. And I would go out a lot every day. I had to go somewhere. And then I kind of relaxed into the quiet, relaxed into being home. And I didn't drive for a really long time. So going back to driving is a little nerve-wracking for me. So let me tell you how I learned to drive. Originally, I learned to drive because I had a boyfriend who let me drive his parents' car through the back roads of Connecticut. Now, they don't know that, but I drove that way. And then my mother decided that I needed to learn to drive, and she took me to the cemetery. Now, some of you know my mom or knew my mom when she was alive. She was quite a hoot at times. And I remember her taking me to the cemetery, and she said, well, the reason we're going to go drive in the cemetery is you have stop signs and you have corners. And in Connecticut, we had little hills. And besides that, there's no one there you can kill. And if need be, if you kill us, we're really close to God because God is all over this cemetery. So this is a great place for you to learn to drive. The thing with my mom was she was a backseat driver. She was constantly hitting that, that invisible brake or grabbing herself against the door. Like I was really a terrible driver, but I really wasn't. I was a great driver, but it took my confidence away at times. When I drive now, when my kids drive now, I ask before they get in the car for beings of light to surround them, to surround the car, to protect the car. And I want to tell you, I've had some really crazy trips where I know I was not driving alone. I had an incident a couple of years ago where I got very sick physically, and I was in Tampa. I was at school that weekend and I was really ill, and I had to drive home. And it's a 4-hour drive from Tampa. And every mile I knew I was not driving by myself because I was really sick and I was barely aware of what was going on. And I prayed most of that trip. I do that a lot. I pray in the car a lot. It's my time with God. It's one of those times where I can really, truly connect. It's a time where it's quiet. And it's peaceful, and it's me by myself. And, they say in the program of recovery, there will come the day where it's just you and God. And so God and I have had a lot of really serious talks in the car. Sometimes I've caught myself crying in desperation, tears streaming down my face, almost not able to see the road. But I know that God's there. Now, don't think I'm too crazy, because I'm not like the lady who closed her eyes and drove into traffic thinking that God's going to drive it all for me. I know that I have to help out. I know I have to do my part of this. I know that it's not just, woo, let's just go and see what happens. Though I will tell you that sometimes when I'm driving, I get distracted because I'm looking around and I'm seeing all the beautiful, beautiful creations that God has given us. All of this beautiful scenery. The green trees, the green grass, the blue skies, the beautiful clouds. And I actually have a whole bunch of pictures, thousands of them, of pictures I took when I was actually driving. And someday I'm going to publish that book, and it's going to be called Driving with Mary, or On the Road with Mary and God. And I took these pictures because they were just beautiful. And I wanted to capture that. So someday when I'm not able to drive, I will have that memory and have that connection as well. So I want to ask you a question, and that is, what kind of driver are you? Because obviously I can get a little distracted taking pictures and doing my thing while I'm in the car. Are you reckless? Do you forget where you are, what God's told you? Are you a conscientious driver? Do you have a clear path? Are you one of those people who likes to just get up and get in the car and go and not know where you're going to end up? Do you use a navigation system? Do you have a system that tells you turn right? My navigation system in my car, the one that actually speaks, is really bossy. And she tells me over and over and over again what she wants me to do. Do you only drive when you have to? Or do you enjoy the ride for the sake of the ride? I want to tell you, for me, I focus a lot on God. And I think it's a great analogy, you know, to say that God is my co-pilot. You know, people say that all the time. But the reality is, God's the one driving. God's the one who's in charge. God's the pilot. I'm the co-pilot. You know, my ex is a actual pilot. And he took me up in a simulator one time and he said, oh, well, my son, who was with us at the time, you can be the co-pilot. And Sean said, well, I don't get to do anything fun then. And his father said, yeah, you do. He said, the pilot's the one who tells you what to do. The person who's the co-pilot is the one who's actually doing all the stuff. And so I go through the motions, but I need to be plugged into God. Just like in my little Insight, I have to plug my phone into the car so it gives me directions. I have this iPhone connection thing and everything comes off my iPhone, but it goes on a little screen. But I've got to plug in. If I don't plug in, I'm not going to get any direction. And it's the same thing with navigation with God. I have to plug in. I have to listen to what God asks me to do. I have to pay attention. You know, I find when I'm following my guidance, when I'm plugging in through meditation to God, I do so much better than when I'm just running things on my own. When I'm doing things on my own, I run into trouble. I take a road that has a detour. I take a road that there's a dead end. I take a road that is so bumpy, you wish you had never gone over it. And sometimes I have to back up when I'm not listening to God. I recognize that God knows exactly where I'm supposed to go. But if I don't listen, I'm not going to do the right thing. I know that ways for me to connect to God, for me, a lot of it's bhakti yoga. A lot of it is singing kirtan. I actually drive my kids crazy when they get in the car because the only thing in my car is kirtan music. And they don't listen to kirtan music, but I do. And so I will sing kirtan. It's also a place where I do a lot of my japa. Japa is where we use our beads and we say a mantra over and over and over again. And you don't have to have the beads to do the mantra, but it definitely can help you to do japa without the beads in the car. On long, long trips, it really helps me to remember who I truly am and remember who God truly is. As I said, when my kids get in the car and when I get on the car to do a long trip, I pray and I ask the angels and I ask ancestors and I ask ascended masters and I ask spirit guides. And sometimes I even ask my totem animals to sit with me in the car, to be there, to help keep me safe, to keep me aware. And sometimes we just need to really be a passenger and let God take the wheel. So we also travel as a passenger. We also can go as a passenger. And I was thinking about this, and I was thinking about a tour that I took with my mom in 1990 of Ireland. It was a bus tour. And it was amazing because I didn't have to pay attention to the road. I just had to enjoy the road. I had to just sit back and watch and see all the beauty. And it almost felt like God was driving me around, showing me all this amazing stuff. You know, I tried to look for references related to God driving us. And I was having a really rough time. And then Rev reminded me that in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna is the chariot driver for Arjuna, who's the main character. And without Krishna there, Arjuna would not have completed his task. He would not have known what to do, and he would have really gone astray. Arjuna had the opportunity and the option to take all of the armies and all of the weapons and all of the everything to go into a battle, but he chose Krishna. You know, and I think about how much Arjuna trusted Krishna. And I think about how when we're a passenger, we have to trust our driver. And so again, what kind of passenger are you? Are you a backseat driver like my mom? Do you sit silently out of fear and do nothing, say nothing? Are you an equal partner in the journey? Do you help look for the road signs? Are you aware? Or do you just relax during the stressful times? You know, when we recognize that we're stressed, it never helps. What we need to do is clear our mind. And again, going back to God, remaining mindful, watching what's going on, and tuning in to what God is asking us to do. Everything we see on this journey of life is a lesson. Every experience we have is a lesson. Every time we get on the road, it's a lesson. So when we look at this journeying with God, this driving with God, we recognize that there's stress in any journey you take. You know, you have to plan for the journey. You have to make sure you have gas for the journey. You kind of have to have an idea where you're going, unless you're really spontaneous. You have to make sure you have everything you're going to need for the journey. And sometimes we get so overwhelmed that we get lost. We get lost. I remember times driving home from Vermont in the dark, in the snow, and not knowing where I was, not knowing what state I was in. Was I still in Vermont? Was I in Massachusetts? Where was I? And during those times, again, turning back to God, going back to that place of safety, knowing we're absolutely okay. Thomas Merton was a Trappist monk, and he said in his book, Thoughts of Solitude, "My Lord God, I have no idea where I'm going. I do not see the road ahead of me. I cannot know for certain where it will end. I will trust you always, though I may seem to be lost, for you will never leave me to face my perils alone." And so I have to go back to all the time when I'm living this journey, when I'm driving this journey with God, and say to myself, you know, do I trust God? What do I believe? And you'll hear Rev say this all the time. What do you believe? What do you believe? It's such an important question. What do you believe? Do you believe God has your back? Do you believe that God's holding you up? Do you believe that what's happening is supposed to happen? You know, when I think about this whole traveling with God, and some of you have heard me say this before, this journey with God, this getting into the car is an analogy. It's an analogy for life and the afterlife and new life. We get into a car at our birth, at our incarnation, if you will. We pick one, we get in, and we drive around. And we don't necessarily know where the journey's going, and we don't necessarily know how long it's going to last, and we don't know what we're going to encounter on the way. We don't know if we're going to hit roadblocks or what's going to happen. But we know that God is always there driving with us, always holding us up. As we travel this journey of life, this highway of life, if you will, we keep going. And at the end, when it's done and the car doesn't run anymore, we get out. It doesn't mean we don't exist anymore. We still exist. We're still here. We're just in spirit form. We're not in that vehicle anymore. And it's all good because God is with us through every step of the way. And so I hope that you guys can think about the journey that you're on and how do you want to play it? Do you want to be the passenger? Do you want to be the driver? Do you want to have God as your pilot? What do you want? And then dedicate yourself to that, knowing always that you're safe, knowing always that the true you, the real you, can never be harmed. And so I just want to say, I hope you guys can remember who you are and enjoy the ride. And now I'd like to open it up for the clergy to share. Thank you. Sister Fran, I can see you coming on. You want to start?
Sure. That was great. I love that because I'm like you. I've always really liked driving, but I find, lately I'm not as inclined to want to drive far if it's pouring rain or whatever. There were so many things in your message that hit home with me. I loved how you talked about at the beginning of COVID when you would find yourself jumping in your car and going somewhere, even if it was just to get gas when you didn't need it. Yeah. I still do that occasionally, so I totally get that. But then you said you relaxed into the quiet. And I have found in my life that relaxing into the quiet has been the most beneficial and easiest way for me to do another thing that you talked about, and that is plugging into God. When I relax into the quiet, I find that I'm just totally plugged into God in a way that it's harder for me to be plugged into God when I'm running all around and doing all my little stuff. So I love that, relaxing into the quiet. I also enjoyed you talking about how when your mother took you to drive. And it reminded me, Friday night after work, I have a friend from Guatemala who just attained her citizenship. I'm so proud of her. She's fabulous. She has never been behind the wheel of a car, and we're going Friday night after work. She's going to drive. So God will be there handling the whole thing. And I'm looking forward to it. And I'll just relax into the quiet and let Rosie and God drive. So thank you.
Thanks. Maxie, you want to go next?
Of course I do. Wonderful message. I love driving. For me, especially, I appreciate it more now because I went several years without driving, but that driving and singing was like my first real connection with spirit, with source, with just not caring how you sound, shouting at the top of your lungs, just, that's how I connected to spirit. And now I love that you brought the japa into it, because every time I get into the car, that is part of my practice now. I do my malas every morning on my way to work, right there. I got them hanging right on my windshield. And I think about what you said, what kind of rider do you want to be? I want to be that person that just sits there and lets spirit drive. But that is such a struggle because most of my life, I'm like, spirit, make a left. No, slow down, you're going too fast. No, hurry up, we got to get there. And in doing so, I am slowing down the journey. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm creating my own roadblocks. And just thank you for your message, for that reminder to me, because I always need that. I always want to be that person who sits and gets guided. And I can't do that if I'm constantly trying to be the backseat driver. Thank you.
Thanks. Sister Chris.
Thank you. Thank you for the message. I love the analogy. Driving is such a great metaphor for so many things. And the car itself is such a wonderful place. It's the little temple on wheels. And it certainly is a great place to connect with spirit. And I think, it sounds like we all have that in common. We like to connect with spirit in the car. And I remember when I worked at like a psychiatric prison, and I used to pray the whole way there. And I had the most spiritual experiences at this job that was very scary to me. But since I had an hour in the car of spiritual grounding, it was always a great experience. I also love thinking about what kind of driver I am. I always prefer to be the driver. I don't, if I'm in a car, I'd like to be the driver. I love long distance road trips. The freedom and the exhilaration of a road trip is awesome. And I do find a spiritual connection on those trips, but I do see that that's one place where I want to be in charge. I want to be behind the wheel, and I have been known to backseat drive occasionally. And it's one of those challenges. But I think many times my guardian angels have been with me. I have a number of times behind the wheel where I can attest to guardian angels stepping in and being with me, and that's a wonderful thing. So. And I also get lost easily, and I've learned how not to panic now. And I don't know how we ever did it without Waze or the GPS, but I'm gonna think about this analogy more, I'm sure. And I really am grateful to you for this message, Mary. Thank you.
Thank you. And Rev.
Thank you so much. Rev Mary, what a great analogy, metaphor, message. And I've been reading this book with Sister Chris. It's called Living Presence, and the Sufi Path to Mindfulness and the Essential Self. And there's this beautiful passage that he says here that he's talking about in terms of submission and submitting. And he says, I'm just going to read it for a minute, if it's all right, if I may. Mm-hmm. Is that okay?
Yeah.
It says here, submission is the true spiritual attitude, being actively receptive to an intelligence that is greater than ours, an intention of gracefulness and surrender, of seeing the world as a stage, of seeing the divine as the director. Submission has something to do with relaxing tensions, both superficial and deep. The most profound relaxation is that within spirit. And it made me think, and I put in the margins, because I like to write in the margins, that, God is my pilot. That God is the pilot. I'm the co-pilot. That's fine. I'm the co-pilot, but I'm not God's little helper. I'm not that backseat driver. Let me reframe that. And then let me say that I too often am the backseat driver, telling God what to do, helping God out, pointing out to God the detours and faster routes, and as everybody else has already mentioned. But there's humility in submission. There's ego in not submitting. And, I was just I drove to South Carolina a couple of weeks ago, and there's this little thing that on my car, on my Rogue, it's cruise control, but it's also like steering assist. And it drove me crazy. I couldn't do it. And it would, like, if you got too close to the car, it like backed it up. And if you went out of the lane, and Sister Chris would tell you that I do that pretty often, too often for her liking. But if you start going into another lane, it pulls you. And I didn't like it because I didn't have enough control. I felt out of control. I didn't like it. And I know that that's exactly what I do with God. I don't like putting it on cruise control with God. I don't like giving God the steering wheel. I don't like submitting. And that's my ego. And that's my arrogance. That's my thinking, I know it. I know how to do it better. I know how to drive better than God. And there's no way that that's true. So my little ego needs to get in the trunk and be gagged and tied up, and let God just take the wheel. Great message, Rev Mary.
Okay, that's wonderful. Thank you so much. So what I'd like you guys to do is to just think for a minute about that meditation trip you took with Sister Chris. Just remember, what vehicle did you choose? And what direction were you going? And you may want to think about that light being that appeared and accompanied you. And I don't know if you want to take a minute and write down that information, because all of those things are really messages from the divine. What we choose, they're messages. And so the clergy is going to let you know what those things mean.
If you chose the van, it represents the path of Raja Yoga. This is the yoga of meditation. And meditation allows us to tap into our inner knowledge. We connect with the aspect of the divine that lives within our heart through meditation. There are many forms of meditation that can be learned to help us connect directly to our soul and to spirit.
By choosing the luxury sedan, if that's what you chose the path of Jnana Yoga. This is the path of sacred knowledge. We can access the universal laws by studying spiritual texts. And many faiths have been established by sages and saints so that we can all be guided on our journey in ways that speak to us. Many paths lead to the same destination.
The truck is the choice of Karma Yoga. This is the path of service. We serve others with no ego. We are not attached to the outcome of our actions, and we seek no praise for what we perform. We are inspired to act as the heart and hands of the divine, and we recognize that in each person we encounter lives the beloved.
Selecting the sports coupe is like choosing Bhakti Yoga. We are invigorated with love of the Creator. We want to live in joyous celebration, not only when the road is clear, but also when there are obstacles. We realize that each moment is an opportunity to praise our beloved.
So if you headed east, it signifies that you're heading into a new venture, a new beginning. There's a new practice. Your companion will guide you to learn to help you connect more deeply with the beloved.
If you headed south, you may need to heal situations with your childhood or renew practices from your childhood. The vehicle you chose will help you go back and identify what needs to be done so your path is clear.
If you headed west, you are being asked to go within, to develop insight about the way you connect with your vehicle and your companion. Use this introspection to go even further.
If you're heading north, recognize that your companion will continue to provide wise guidance to deepen your practice as you drive forward on your journey.
And so just remember that the being of light that was in the car with you will help you to continue on your path, which is the direction that you went, and through the path of yoga that you chose. And you can learn a whole lot more about integral yoga. It's online through the Yoga Research Foundation. And we all love Swami Jyotirmayananda Ji, who is our guru. And he's got some great material if you want to learn more about yoga. And thank you so much for joining us in this little ritual. And Rev Ji is now going to share some of the comments that you guys may have written down.
Yeah, a lot of people have some great comments here. Reverend Sue says that she connects with her guides while she's driving pretty much every morning on her way to work. Dr. Donna says, what a good friend you are, Fran, Sister Fran. Super message, Mary. Thank you. She loves when her husband drives. Did you hear that, Sister Chris? And she's learned to trust him and our higher power implicitly. One More Foundation is on with a big heart. Honey says, as I learn to listen, I'm more tuned into being directed rather than think. I know the way. Thank you for the message. Dr. Donna says, Chris, she recalls when you drove all the way down to the rally in Homestead. Thank you. She felt quite safe. And Dr. Donna's not saying that if I were driving, she wouldn't have been safe. She's just saying that she appreciates when you drove. Vern says, when spirit drives, the paths may be unknown, but the opportunities for self-discoveries abound. Dave says, great message. I love driving and being driven. The journey is always amazing. I just go for the ride.
And now we come to our favorite part of the ceremony, the love donation. I have something a little new for you tonight. So we appreciate all of you being here with us, as always. And I know that you, like me, appreciate the many gifts and the love that you receive from being a member of the Darshan family. So tonight, I am starting the Darshan Sharing Committee. The mission of the committee will be to enhance and strengthen our connection with each other and to help our family thrive and grow by each of us participating in the expenses. I hereby invite you to join the Darshan Sharing Committee. All you need to do to be a member of this select group is to share even a small amount, a small donation toward our communal expenses by offering your love donation. Any amount that you can afford to give will be accepted with love and gratitude. Even a prayer will grant you a seat on this exclusive and inclusive committee. Please give from your heart with love, and whatever you give will be appreciated and received with love and gratitude. We thank you and we love you. And now on the screen, you see that you can pay with various different methods. We have PayPal, we have Venmo and Cash App. And if anyone has a hard time using one of those apps, please feel free to email Rev Grace. She'd be happy to walk you through it. Everything's easy once you know how, but sometimes the first time isn't always easy. So please feel free to reach out and ask for help. And now we have our announcements. Okay, so the first thing we want to ask you to do is to subscribe to our YouTube channel. And we should be, on the screen, we show Darshan Center for Spiritual Evolution, and the red arrow shows you want to hit that subscribe button. So you'll be subscribed, and then you want to hit the little bell so you'll be notified of whenever we're live and whenever we have an event coming up. Make sure you check your spam in case you're not getting your constant contact email from Rev Grace. And if you don't get it and you don't see it in your spam, then send an email to Rev Grace. And if you look on your screen, it shows you where to sign up or where to send an email letting Rev Grace know that you're not receiving the emails. So be sure to join our members private group on Facebook, and it's called Darshan Center Members. And you just go in, and where that red arrow shows you, you click on join the group and you'll become a member of our private group. Still offering Monday morning puja with Rev Grace. It's every Monday morning at 10 a.m. on our Darshan Center members Facebook page. Please join us if you can. Thank you.
So let us pray. Blessed One, Holy One, great mystery, divine creator, source of love, source of healing, please bless and blanket those who are suffering with your love and with your care. We send healing energy and cooling energy to those fires in California and to all those people in California who are suffering right now in fear. We send healing and divine love to all of those who are suffering from this dreadful COVID and all those who are grieving. We send divine blessings, divine love to all those who are suffering with any disease and pain, spiritual, emotional, physical. We know that we are one, and we know that as we uplift our own energy, we uplift the energy of the planet. And as we tend to our own healing, we tend to the healing of the planet. And we are so grateful for this awareness. And we are so grateful to know that the Divine One has got us and is holding us, that there is divine spirit driving this vehicle, that there is mercy and love and light driving this vehicle. And we trust in the goodness and we trust in the light. And we are so grateful for the gift of each other and the spiritual tribe and the spiritual home. And we trust that we shall be safe. And we pray that everybody on the planet be safe, fed, and free. Blessed be. Aho. Amen. Ashe.
Thank you, everybody, for joining us tonight. We love you, our spiritual family. I put a lot of stuff in the text box there. If you are in need of support, please reach out to Rev G. My email is there and my phone number, and any number, any one of our clergy can be there for you. Just reach out. Know you're not alone. Love you all.